Ma's law, things go right so they can go wrong. McPherson's theory of entropy. It requires less energy to take an object out of its proper place than to put it back. Madison's question, if you have to travel on a Titanic, why not go first class? Mae West's observation, to err is human, but it feels divine. Meyer's law, if the facts do not conform to the theory, they must be disposed of. Malek's law, any simple idea will be worded in the most complicated way. Malinowski's law, looking from far above, from our high places of safety in the developed civilization, it is easy to see all the crudity and irrelevance of magic. Malloy's maxim, the fact that monkeys have hands should give us pause. Manley's maxim, logic is a systematic method of coming to the wrong conclusion with confidence. Margaret Mead's law of human migration. At least 50% of the human race doesn't want their mother-in-law within walking distance. Mark Miller's exception to Crane's law, Tonstoffel. There are no free lunches, but sometimes it costs more to collect money than to give away food. Mark's law of monetary equalization. A fool and your money are soon partners. Mark's mark. Love is a matter of chemistry, sex is a matter of physics. Marshall's generalized iceberg theorem. 7/8 of everything can't be seen. Mars's rule, an expert is anyone from out of town. Martha's maxim, and see Olam's observation and Pharaoh's finding. If God had meant for us to travel tourist class, he would have made us narrower. Martin Berthelot principle. Of all possible committee reactions to any given agenda item, the reaction that will occur is the one which will liberate the greatest amount of hot air. Martin's law of committees. All committee reports conclude that it is not prudent to change the policy or procedure or organization or whatever at this time. Martin's exclusion. Committee reports dealing with wages, salaries, fringe benefits, facilities, computers, employee parking, libraries, coffee breaks, secretarial support, etc. Always call for dramatic expenditure increases. Martin's law of communication. The inevitable result of improved and enlarged communication between different levels in a hierarchy is a vastly increased area of misunderstanding. Martin's Minimax maxim. Everyone knows that the name of the game is to let the other guy have all of the little tats and to keep all of the big tits for yourself. Marianne's law. You can always find what you're not looking for. Matilda's law of subcommittee formation. If you leave the room, you're elected. Match's law. It is better to have a horrible ending than to have horrors without end. Match's maxim. A fool in a high station is like a man on the top of a small mountain. Matz's maxim. A conclusion is the place where you get tired of thinking. Martz's rule. Regarding medications, a drug is that substance which, when injected into a rat, will produce a scientific report. Matz's warning. Beware of the physician who is great at getting out of trouble. Mom's thought. Only a mediocre person is always at his best. Maine's law. Nobody notices the big errors. May's law. The quality of the correlation is inversely proportional to the density of the control. The fewer the facts, the smoother the curves. May's mordant maxim. A university is a place where men of principle outnumber men of honor. McCarthy's law. Being in politics is like being a football coach. You have to be smart enough to understand the game and dumb enough to think it's important. McCloughery's codicil on Jones's motto, to make an enemy, do someone a favor. McCloughery's law of public policy. Politicians who vote huge expenditures to alleviate problems get re-elected. Those who propose structural changes to prevent problems get early retirement. McCloughery's law of zoning. Where zoning is not needed, it will work perfectly. Where it is desperately needed, it always breaks down. McDonald's corollary to Murphy's laws. In any given set of circumstances, the proper course of action is determined by subsequent events. McDonald's second law. Consultants are mystical people who ask a company for a number and give it back to them. Magoon's Law. The probability of winning is inversely proportional to the amount of the wager. McGovern's Law. The longer the title, the less important the job. McGowan's Christmas shopping axiom. If an item is advertised as under $50, you can bet it's not $19.95. McGregor's revised maxim. The shortest distance between 2 points is under construction. McGurk's Law. Any improbable event which would create maximum confusion if it did occur, will occur. McKee's Law. When you're not in a hurry, the traffic light will turn green as soon as your vehicle comes to a complete stop. McKenna's Law. When you are right, be logical. When you are wrong, be fuddle. McKernan's maxim. Those who are unable to learn from past meetings are condemned to repeat them. McLaughlin's Law and see Parsons' third law. The length of any meeting is inversely proportional to the length of the agenda for that meeting. McLean's maxim. There are only 2 problems with people. One is that they don't think. The other is that they do. McNaughton's rule. Any argument worth making within the bureaucracy must be capable of being expressed in a simple, declarative sentence that is obviously true once stated. Meadows' maxim. You can't push on a rope. Melcher's Law. In a bureaucracy, every routing slip will expand until it contains the maximum number of names that can be typed in a single vertical column. Mencken's meta law. For every human problem, there is a neat, simple solution, and it is always wrong. Merkin's maxim, when in doubt, predict that the present trend will continue. Merrill's first corollary. There are no winners in life, only survivors. Merrill's second corollary. In the highway of life, the average happening is of about as much true significance as a dead skunk in the middle of the road. Meskimen's Law. There's never time to do it right, but always time to do it over. Myers' Law. It is a simple task to make things complex, but a complex task to make them simple. Myers' Law. In a social situation, that which is most difficult to do is usually the right thing to do. Meikle's rule. For prospective mountain climbers, the mountain gets steeper as you get closer. Meikle's theorem. Less is more. Mickelson's Law of falling objects. Any object that is accidentally dropped will hide under a larger object. Miksch's Law. If a string has one end, then it has another end. Miles's Law. Where you stand depends on where you sit. Miller's Law. You can't tell how deep a puddle is until you step into it. Miller's maxim. In a surplus labor economy, the squeaking wheel does not get the grease. It gets replaced. Mills's Law of Transportation Logistics. The distance to the gate from which your flight departs is inversely proportional to the time remaining before the scheduled departure of the flight. Corollaries. Woods. 1. This remains true even as you rush to catch the flight. 2. From this, it follows that you are invariably rushing the wrong way. Milstead's Christmas card rule. After you've mailed your last card, you will receive a card from someone you overlooked. Milstead's driving principle. Whenever you need to stop at a light to put on makeup, every light will be green. Mist Law. Man in the street. The number of people watching you is directly proportional to the stupidity of your action. Mitchell's Law of Committees. A simple problem can be made insoluble if enough meetings are held to discuss it. Mobile's maxim. Bad regulation begets worse regulation. Mower's truism. The trouble with most jobs is the resemblance to being in a sled dog team. No one gets a change of scenery except the lead dog. Mollison's bureaucracy hypothesis. If any idea can survive a bureaucratic review and be implemented, it wasn't worth doing. Money maxim. Money isn't everything. It isn't plentiful, for instance. Montagu's maxim. The idea is to die young as late as possible. Morgan's discovery. The average man is a little below average. Morley's conclusion. No man is lonely while eating spaghetti. Morris's law of conferences. The most interesting paper will be scheduled simultaneously with the second most interesting paper. Morton's law. If rats are experimented upon, they will develop cancer. Moser's law of spectator sports. Exciting plays occur only while you are watching the scoreboard or out buying a hot dog. Mosher's law. It's better to retire too soon than too late. Mother Sigafoos's observation. A man should be greater than some of his parts. Mr. Cooper's law. If you do not understand a particular word in a piece of technical writing, ignore it. The piece will make perfect sense without it. Mrs. Parkinson's law. Heat produced by pressure expands to fill the mind available from which it can pass only to a cooler mind. Mrs. Weiler's law. Anything is edible if it is chopped finely enough. Muir's law. When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. Munder's corollary to Howe's law. Everyone who does not work has a scheme that does. Monica's law. If you don't say it, they can't repeat it. Murchison's law of money. Money is like manure. If you spread it around, it does a lot of good. But if you pile it up in one place, it stinks like hell. Murphy philosophy. Smile, tomorrow will be worse. Murphy's advice? Don't worry, nobody gives a hoot anyway. Murphy's constant. Matter will be damaged in direct proportion to its value. Murphy's eighth corollary. Left to themselves, things tend to go from bad to worse. Murphy's fifth corollary. Every solution breeds new problems. Murphy's first corollary. Whenever you set out to do something, something else must be done first. Murphy's first corollary. Nothing is as easy as it looks. Murphy's first law for husbands. If you run into an old girlfriend, no matter how innocently, your wife will know about it before you get home. Murphy's first law for wives. If you ask your husband to pick up 5 items at the store and then add 1 more as an afterthought, he'll forget 2 of the first 5. Murphy's first law of construction. Power tools will fail at the most inconvenient time possible. Murphy's fourth corollary. It is impossible to make anything foolproof because fools are so ingenious. Murphy's fourth law. If there is a possibility of several things going wrong, the one that will cause the most damage will be the one to go wrong. Murphy's fourth law. For husbands, your wife's stored possessions will always be on top of your stored possessions. Murphy's fourth law of the kitchen. When the meal you are preparing is on schedule, the guests will be 45 minutes late. Murphy's Guide to Modern Science. 1. If it's green or it wriggles, it's biology. 2. If it stinks, it's chemistry. 3. If it doesn't work, it's physics. Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will. Murphy's Law of Government. If anything can go wrong, it will do so in triplicate. Murphy's Law of Multiples. If you perceive that there are 4 possible ways in which a procedure can go wrong and circumvent these, then a 5th way will promptly develop. Murphy's Law of Research. Enough research will tend to support your theory. Murphy's Law of Supply. If you don't need it and don't want it, you can have tons of it. Murphy's Law of Thermodynamics. Things get worse under pressure. Murphy's Paradox. Doing it the hard way is always easier. Murphy's Saving Grace. The worst is the enemy of the bad. Murphy's second corollary. Everything takes longer than you think. Murphy's second corollary. Every solution breeds new problems. Murphy's second law for wives. The snapshots you take of your husband are always more flattering than the ones he takes of you. Murphy's second law of construction. When taking something apart to fix a minor malfunction, you will cause a major malfunction. Murphy's seventh corollary. Nature always sides with the hidden flaw. Murphy's sixth corollary. It is impossible to make anything foolproof because fools are so ingenious. Murphy's 10th corollary. Mother Nature is a bitch. Murphy's third corollary. If there is a possibility of several things going wrong, the one that will cause the most damage will be the one to go wrong. Murphy's third law for husbands. The gifts you buy your wife are never as appropriate as the gifts your neighbor buys his wife. Murphy's third law. For wives, whatever arrangement you make for the division of household duties, your husband's job will be easier. Murphy's third law of the kitchen. The mixing bowl you need is always dirty. Murray's first rule of the arena. Nothing is ever so bad it can't be made worse by firing the coach. Murray's law of hockey. Hockey is a game played by 6 good players and a home team. Murray's laws. 1. Never ask a barber if you need a haircut. 2. Never ask a salesman if his price is a good one. Murray's rule of football. The wrong quarterback is the one that's in there. Murray's second rule of the arena. A free agent is anything but. Murray's third rule of the arena. Whatever can go to New York will